RVEngineer here today, and I'd hoped I would be putting videos up a lot sooner than this, but I think like a lot of people, the COVID situation has been rapidly changing for all of us in our work, and I really hope that everybody out there is staying safe. But at the same time, we have a lot of time on our hands now for some of us that have to work from home or find ourselves without work. So while I don't know exactly when I'm going to get my first camping trip out, I thought I'd make a video series on what I'm doing to de-winterize my camper. And the first step of de-winterizing the camper is getting power hooked up to the camper. So we'll crawl up underneath the bonnet here and take a look at that. So what I've got going on here is this originally came with two 12-volt batteries from the dealer, and they were just standard 12-volt batteries. They weren't deep cycle. They weren't really very great batteries. So I'd had these two 6-volt batteries left over from a previous camper that are, they were made in March of 2019, still in really good shape. And the reason that I like to go with these 6 volts is because you get a lot deeper cycle charge on them, and they tend to just last a lot better. So I had pulled the batteries completely out of the camper because where we're at, winters get pretty cold and you don't want them to freeze. So I'd fully charged them and stored them inside of my garage back at the house, and now I'm installing them for the first time. So there's been no power to this camper at all, and before I can begin to de-winterize and work on the tanks, all that, for where we store our camper, I need to be able to get some power. So a key point about 6-volt batteries is you're going to be hooking these batteries up in series, which means you'll be going from the negative line of the camper, and then the positive coming out of this battery will go into the negative of this battery, and then finally to the positive of this one back to the camper. That's called adding the batteries in series, so that you get the power of 6 volts plus 6 volts to equal the 12 volts that the camper needs. So the first thing you want to do is really identify where are your main negative and positive wires that come out of the camper, because you want those out of the way as you're setting the batteries in. And then you got to think about, how does my cover that goes over here, what way does the wire need to route? And in this case, they've cut the slit in this direction. So that means that I want to be able to bring this negative terminal in from this direction to contact right there. And then you also need to make sure that, do I have enough cable to be able to connect from wherever my first battery is to my second? And unfortunately, this battery box wasn't done by me. This comes from the factory. This was done by the dealer. I would have done it a little differently, but it's already screwed through. And so for this year, I'm just going to leave it like this. So what I need to be able to do is make sure that I can go out of this negative terminal, or out of this positive terminal rather, and reach this negative terminal up here. And then also make sure that my positive wire from the camper has enough length to get where the battery is at. Because if you can't get your wires to reach, you're not going to have power. So the first thing I'm going to do is connect these two batteries together, from the positive of this one to the negative of this one. And then what I will do is then hook up the positive, and at the very end I will ground out the system on the negative side of things. So one other thing that's a good idea to do before you make that final negative connection is go ahead and pull out the short right here, so that way you don't have everything trying to pull power from this battery immediately, but you can keep it limited for a shorter circuit initially. So I've just finished tightening down this last nut right here, and you want to make sure and get these, you don't want to put all your weight into them, but you want to make sure they're snug so you're not shorting out. And you can see I immediately got this light on right here, because now we have electricity going through this little courtesy lamp here, and then also to our auto leveling system. And then of course it's always a good idea to make sure that your cover is going to fit over. And I'll kind of do this off the camera a little bit, but make sure that you can get everything down into there and get your wires fed over correctly and that sort of thing. Now, unfortunately, the dealer did not give me a cover to tie into this one to put on here with the hydrogen drain. And so that's something I'll have to be fixing soon, and buying a cover for this one too, so we can connect both these up. Because the reason this hose actually exists is these batteries very, very slowly leak out just a little bit of hydrogen gas. And for those of you that know your history, hydrogen is a bit flammable. So now that I've got my 12-volt hooked up, I'm actually going to go ahead and auto level, because as we de-winterize, it's very important that our tanks are level. So we want to go ahead and just do the very easy, hit the auto level button and let it do its thing. So before I start anything else, I want to make sure that I've completely emptied out my fresh tank, just in case when I was winterizing, any of it leaked back through. So I'm going to be pulling this open and letting any sort of, I'm just going to leave that open for a little bit while I do everything else. Now, I store my RV with my taps open, and the reason that I do that is I've gotten burned on a previous RV where water, even though I had done everything right, winterizing everything, there was a little bit of water left in between the two drains and it froze. It basically was cut off and froze, and I had to replace that section of pipe. So I always leave all my water faucets open. So now I've got to push all my slides out to be able to get to my faucets so that I can close them all before I start running water through the system. So this is the faucet that I always start with. Earlier when I was talking about the one where I had left these closed over winter even though I'd winterized perfectly. Well, actually there's just a little T-line right between here. And what happened was, even though I'd winterized everything perfectly, I had this tiny little drip coming down out of here on a different camper with a similar setup. And what it was is there was just a little bit of water trapped in between, and so it was leaking out. So now you can open this up here. Oops, sorry. And let's see, we're getting pressure through here. So now we're out here at our outside faucet, and we'll kick this on, and you can see we'll start to bleed through some of the pink stuff. And the idea is that you want to run this until you are running clear. And what you're getting there is just a little bit of air, you know, as it had to fill up the hot water tank. You know, it's pushing some air through the system. Of course, you gotta do your hot and cold. I like to do them independently so I can be really sure when one's bled over or not bled over. Looks like my trap wasn't all the way opened up below here. So I'll take a minute to drain out. And I'll do this a couple times. I'll kind of do the initial, get everything flushed through, and then I'll come back through and run them for a while. Make sure that's flushed all the way out of the system. So now we'll go to the insides. So now for the sink, of course, you have your all the way hot and all the way cold. You want to be sure in both directions. Again, you're going to do it till you make sure you definitely flushed all the good pink stuff out of there, and it's switched over to the clear. And I flip it over to the other side. Hot, same thing. I'm gonna start out on this one. You know, it's got the double sprayers, and make sure you hit both things, flush it. So again, back here in our back bathroom, this is the half bath for the kids. Now once you started to kind of run through it, some of them may not go all the way pink, but you want to make sure that you're doing a good job of bleeding through until you get the air out of the lines. And on the other side, it's still got some pink in there, but not as much as initially. You're going to get less and less as you kind of work your way through the system. Now some of you might be saying, is he really running that long enough? But keep in mind that I'm going to sanitize the fresh water tank. And then after I sanitize and fill the fresh water tank, I'm going to also then fill it up with vinegar and completely empty the fresh water tank with that vinegar as well. So I'm going to end up running a fair amount of water through here. And of course, I always like to do the toilet as well. You can see it still had some pink trapped up inside of there as well. Not as critical from a taste standpoint, but still a good idea to go ahead and give it a flush. Make sure you don't see any issues with water flow through there. And we'll go to our last bathroom. Same thing here, kicking it on. And like I said, these will be quicker and quicker now. We've got good water flow, and we've gotten most there we go. I'm going to do the toilet again. There goes the pink stuff there. And then lastly, the shower. And I have no idea why. Someone smarter than me can explain why. The shower is the area where the bugs seem to collect. And I don't have an answer for this. I just seem to know that it always happens. These little gnat-type bugs collect in here. So we can always use this as a good opportunity to rinse them on down the drain. ladybug right there too. Someone's got an answer for why the bugs collect in the shower. Post it below, and I'll be interested in the different theories about why that is. Maybe something to do with the skylights. I'm going to switch over to cold and use that too. When you hear that little drip going, mine has always had a leak straight from the factory right here. And I just haven't had the desire to go through, and it's not because this doesn't have Teflon on it, it's actually a micro crack in there. I already checked that out. So that's something that I'll be seeing if a little bit of Flex Seal can fix that up on a different episode. So now I've completely run fresh water through my entire system. I have gotten all of the glycol out of this, and the next thing I'm going to do is start doing the sanitize to the freshwater tank. That'll be a different video series. So again, this is just the basics of how to flush the glycol or the winterizing fluid out of your camper and get ready for your first adventure for the year. Stay safe out there. Hope everybody's doing great. Leave comments below. Thanks.